morning and welcome back. This is World News coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Saria Strzemska. The G7 summit in Canada has just concluded and despite a carefully planned agenda, was full of surprises. The program was disrupted by the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran, along with US President Donald Trump's early departure. Here are some key takeaways.
The G7 was one leader short, following the U.S. president's surprise decision to leave the summit early to return to Washington. It meant that Donald Trump missed a planned meeting with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. A major topic on the summit's agenda were the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. The 7 leaders called for de-escalation of hostilities in the region, including a ceasefire in Gaza. However, they stopped short of calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Also during the summit, French President Emmanuel Macron said he is determined to increase pressure on Russia to accept the immediate and unconditional ceasefire. The statement was quickly echoed by the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who announced that Canada is launching a new package of sanctions against Russia.
With our international partners, we're launching a major new package of sanctions on individuals, on companies, on vessels, the Shadow Fleet, to exert maximum pressure on Russia. We're also sending over $2 billion in funding for drones, ammunition, armored vehicles to help Ukrainians defend their territory, as well as a $2.3 billion loan to help rebuild the infrastructure in that country. And take a moment to reiterate our condolences given the barbarism witnessed overnight in Kyiv caused by Russia.
Now let's turn to the latest from Ukraine. At least 23 people have been killed and 134 wounded after a mass Russian missile and drone attack on the Ukrainian capital. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy departed the G7 summit on Tuesday with additional assistance from host Canada, but did not have a meeting with Donald Trump. The Russian strikes damaged buildings and infrastructure in 8 districts of Kyiv, with emergency services still searching for survivors in the rubble. Many of the deaths occurred in the Solomyansky district when a Russian missile struck a 9-story apartment building, destroying one section. The 9-hour-long attack saw Russian forces launch 472 drones, including 280 Shaheds and 2 Kinjal ballistic missiles at Ukraine's capital. Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said that Russia also used cluster munitions, which have been found in one area of the city. In a video posted to his Telegram channel, Klitschko also declared June 18th a day of mourning in Kyiv. Flags on all municipal buildings are flown at half-mast, and all entertainment events in the Ukrainian capital have been cancelled. The first group of Polish citizens evacuated from Israel arrived safely at Warsaw's Chopin airport early Wednesday morning, with a second flight scheduled for Thursday. The Polish government confirmed the arrival of the first group of evacuees from Israel, who made their way from Tel Aviv through Egypt. This marks the beginning of a major evacuation operation, with around 200 Polish citizens set to return home. A second flight will depart from Amman on Thursday. Many of the evacuees expressed relief upon their safe return, with some describing the situation as a first-time experience of the ongoing conflict in Israel. And now moving on to the Middle East, Israel conducted a series of airstrikes overnight targeting Iranian centrifuge and missile production sites with over 50 aircraft, according to military reports on Wednesday. Iran launched new attacks on Israel as well, but none appeared to do significant damage. In addition, the Pentagon is fast-tracking the deployment of yet another aircraft carrier and additional ships to the region.
While some residents of Israel and Iran continue spotting missiles flying overhead, others are too busy evacuating from major cities. Following calls from Israel and US officials, the people of Tehran began leaving the capital, causing heavy traffic. At the same time, those residing in Tel Aviv and Haifa were advised to evacuate by Iran. Shortly thereafter, the US embassy in Israel announced that it will be closed until Friday, as Israel and Iran continue trading blows. Moreover, the Iranian Mehr news agency claimed Iran has launched Fatah missiles toward Israel. According to Tehran, the Fatah-1 missile is a hypersonic weapon traveling at 5 times the speed of sound. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, issued a warning on social media, telling Israel, quote, "The battle begins."
Now, Donald Trump posted on social media, quote, "unconditional surrender," referring to Iran, of course. He also said that the US will not target the country's supreme leader, at least not for now. US President Donald Trump warned on social media on Tuesday that Washington's patience was wearing thin. He said there was no intention to kill Iran's leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, for now. However, he posted on Truth Social that we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding, implying that he is an easy target. President Donald Trump arrived back in Washington early Tuesday after cutting short his stay at the G7 summit in Canada due to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. According to some American media outlets, Trump is contemplating joining Israel in strikes aimed at Iran's underground nuclear facilities. French President Emmanuel Macron warned that any attempt to forcibly change the Iranian regime will only plunge the region into further chaos. According to Macron, France does not want Iran to have nuclear weapons, but toppling the Tehran regime by force would be the biggest error one could make today.
We do not want Iran to get nuclear weapons or have ballistic capabilities. I believe that the biggest error today is to seek a regime change in Iran through military means, because that would lead to chaos. Therefore, our responsibility is to resume discussions as quickly as possible to restore a framework for addressing nuclear and ballistic issues. This is what France has consistently done for the past 10 years. Does anyone think that what was done in Iraq in 2003 was a good idea? Does anyone think that what was done in Libya the next decade was a good idea? No. I'm also thinking of our friends in the region, in Iraq, Lebanon, and elsewhere. We must help them eliminate everything that indeed threatens their security, because they need anything but chaos.
The Pentagon has given the U.S. Northern Command responsibility for U.S. military operations in and near Greenland, the autonomous territory of Denmark.
Defending Greenland was previously tasked the United States European Command, but that will now fall under the U.S. North Command's area of responsibility. Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said in a statement that the change will strengthen the joint forces' ability to defend the U.S. homeland, contributing to a more robust defense of the Western Hemisphere and deepening relationships with Arctic allies and partners. Trump administration officials have previously stressed the strategic importance of Greenland, which borders the Arctic Ocean and houses missile warning and satellite control facilities. Last week, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth appeared to acknowledge that the Pentagon has developed plans to take over Greenland by force if necessary.
According to Reuters, Donald Trump's special envoy for Ukraine, Kyiv Kellogg, is expected to meet with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko in the coming days. Kellogg's visit to Belarus comes as peace talks to bring an end to Russia's war against Ukraine remain stalled.
As stated by two of the sources, the meeting could help reignite the so far unsuccessful peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. It will mark the second meeting between U.S. and Belarusian officials this year. In February, U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Christopher Smith visited the country to conduct a prisoner swap. Smith drove to Belarus from Lithuania following a phone call with Lukashenko. The small American delegation visited a border town where 3 political prisoners, including 1 U.S. citizen, were transferred to U.S. officials. According to Smith, during the phone call and the subsequent visit, Lukashenko said he was ready to decrease repression in Belarus.
The St. Petersburg International Economic Forum starts today in Russia. The forum attracted the upper echelons of Russian business, as well as a handful of Western representatives.
The list of foreign dignitaries speaking at the St. Petersburg International Forum includes Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó, who has been a regular at an official event hosted in Russia. Szijjártó will be joined by pro-Russian officials and public figures from, among other countries, Moldova, Germany, Austria, Romania and Switzerland, as well as several U.S. business representatives. The St. Petersburg International Economic Forum has been touted as Russia's alternative to the World Economic Forum in Davos. However, since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Western participation in the event has mostly been consigned to Kremlin-friendly political fringes. The war is also conspicuously absent from the forum's agenda.
Now let's turn to the recent drone incidents over the Baltic Sea. We are responding to these disruptions, said Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz. The drones reportedly lost contact with the GPS system and began moving independently of the operator.
Several weeks ago, a special safety committee convened to address this issue. General Maciej Klisz, the operational commander, prepared a series of recommendations for military aviation. We also provided all the information to civil aviation, flight control and the Polish Air Navigation Services Agency. We are witnessing these disturbances. They are occurring over the Baltic Sea, affecting our NATO allies in the Baltic and Nordic countries. We are responding. According to our sources, these actions are related to the Russian Federation's activities, including sabotage. Up until now, I hadn't even thought about it. It never occurred to me to think about it.
Further commenting on the issue, Paulina Piasecka, director of the Terrorism Research Center at Collegium Civitas, told TVP World that such incidents are a significant challenge for our state, as we need to not only collect evidence, but also prove it in court. Piasecka also noted that the attacks are not just taking place in the Baltic and may be retaliatory actions for Ukrainian strikes on Russian military assets.
So far, what we know is what our officials do say, but it's especially in case of something tragic happening and potential international court proceedings, it would be about the burden of the proof of stating that, yes, it was actually an action of the state and not, say, for example, individual hacker who did mess with the international navigation systems. So that is a huge question of our ability to not only detect, but then after the fact to collect the digital evidence, protect said evidence, and be able to present it in front of the court. That it's not only about the Baltic Sea region. I mean, similar reports about the activities that are connected with disruption of the GPS signal, and not only the disruption of the GPS navigation, but also the attacks of hackers against the navigational data and the mapping of the positions of sea vessels. Do happen not only in the region of the Baltic Sea, but also, as it is reported by Romanian authorities, in the region of the Black Sea. And so it is a huge scale. It is connected, at least by some analysts, with the concurrent activities that were connected with the Ukrainian attack against the drone attacks against the Russian military bases.
It's the seventh time the charm. After 6 delays, the potential new launch date for the Axiom 4 mission, which includes Polish astronaut Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski, has been set for June 22nd.
The postponement follows ongoing assessments of the ISS after recent repair work on a module that suffered an air leak and a pressure drop. Despite the setback, Axiom Space confirmed that the crew remains in good health and spirits, with astronaut Uznański-Wiśniewski and his fellow crew members continuing their quarantine at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. Once launched, the mission will see Uznański-Wiśniewski become the first Polish astronaut aboard the ISS, where the crew will conduct up to 60 scientific experiments during their 14-day stay.
Let's hope it will work out this time. Thank you for watching our news update, and please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.